And you make these little biscuits or flatbreads, basically, and you bake them. And you can really eat them any type of way. Like even in Miami, they have arepa food trucks. So you could get it stuffed with chicken or pulled pork, or you could even go sweet with it, and you could do like butter and honey.
Welcome to Funeral Potatoes and Wool Mittens, a show for people who embrace the warm and cozy spirit of everyday living in the Midwest. From the blog Random Sweets, I'm your host, Stacy Mergenthal. Today, you'll hear from my very first Michigan guest. Michigan, also known as the Mitten State. Our guest is Alicia Wright. We cover a lot of topics in this episode, from mud water and allergen-free chocolate chip cookies, and Alicia's favorite spots in Holland, to her motivation behind becoming a boutique vacation rental owner in Gulf Shores, Alabama, to the Venezuelan arepa recipe that her dad brought with him when he came to America with just a suitcase and his guitar. And if you've been thinking about vacationing to Gulf Shores, you're in for a treat because Alicia surprises us with a discount code to both of her Alabama properties. So while you're listening to this episode, check out her website, bluepalmgetaways.com, and then get the recipes, the links, and photos from this episode on randomsweets.com. Welcome, Alicia, to Funeral Potatoes and Wool Mittens.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here, Stacy. It's so good to talk to you in person, sort of.
This is going to be so fun. You are my first guest from Michigan.
Oh, that's so exciting.
And we have a lot of topics to cover today. But when we get to your recipes, it just reminded me how much the Midwest is really a beautiful melting pot of cultures. And we're really more than just tater tot hot dish and lefse.
Yes.
And those are good too.
No,
but
totally.
I like what you're going to share and the story that kind of goes behind that. So first, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know some, but I'm going to learn a lot today. And so Alicia is how you pronounce your name. Jason and I think we did 2 episodes, actually, podcast episodes in season 1 about Gulf Shores. One of them was the fun things to do, where to stay. The other episode was about where to eat in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And we talked about our Airbnb host, Alicia. Well, I've since learned that your name is Alicia. We totally Americanized that name.
No, and that is totally okay. And you are certainly not the first person to do that. So I always joke I'm a young mom with 2 little kids and a small business owner. So my hobby is surviving. But no, my name's Alicia Wright. I live with my husband, 2 kids, and 2 dogs in Holland, Michigan. We've been married since 2015 and met in high school. We're from Kalamazoo, and that is about an hour south of here.
Okay.
We ended up here in Holland because of my husband's job, and we've actually really fallen in love with the lakeshore. So Holland, Michigan, we always show people where we live on our hand. And because we're the Mitten State. And so we live right on the edge of the palm near Lake Michigan. My kids are 5 and 3, almost 6 and 4 next month. I have a background in nursing, and I actually don't do anything with nursing anymore. I own a boutique vacation rental company in Gulf Shores, Alabama, which is how you and I met.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I'm also involved with my church. My faith has become a big part of my life. And what I like to do for fun, but also for my mental health, is exercise. So I try to make it to the gym about 3 times a week. And my gym is actually fantastic because they have childcare. Yeah, that's me.
So Holland, Michigan, paint us a little picture about why is it so charming?
It is. That's the perfect word for it. It is so charming. And I always tell people, if you've ever seen a Hallmark Christmas movie, You've seen Holland, Michigan. It's so quaint. It's so sweet. Everyone is nice. We have this lovely little downtown filled with shops. And we also, obviously, we have the beach, and there's just so much here in Holland. And actually, what I did not know about Holland when I lived here, or when I moved here, is that Holland is known for its Dutch heritage.
Oh, sure.
So the Tulip Time Festival is huge here. They plant over 500,000 tulips every year for this massive festival that basically celebrates Dutch heritage. So, think wooden shoes, parades through the streets, kids get off school, like it's a big deal.
Wow.
There's a saying here in Holland that if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. Which is really funny. And I'm not Dutch at all,
right.
but I've kind of weaseled my way in. We're very seasonal. So a lot of people, especially here in Holland, you'll see a lot of people actually who live in Chicago. They own houses up here and will come for the summer.
Okay, on the lake, near the lake.
Yes.
Okay. So what are some of the big must-see do things in the summertime if people come to visit Holland?
So obviously I say the beach. I'm a beach girl through and through. I love the beach and I love the Gulf. Obviously I own down at the Gulf, but Lake Michigan's no slouch either. So my favorite spot is called Lake Town Beach. My kids call it the secret beach.
Oh.
It's so cute, but you drive down this road and it almost feels like you're just at a dead end. And so you have to walk through all these dunes, and then all of a sudden it's like the lake opens up and it's beautiful. So I would say you have to visit Lake Town Beach, and you have to go down on 8th Street with all the shops and everything like that.
Are there a lot of lighthouses to see?
Yes, we have a lighthouse. There's a lighthouse here in Holland. And then if you drive about 20 minutes south, you would see the Saugatuck Lighthouse. That's another really cute little beach town about 20 minutes south from us.
Okay.
You can go up to Grand Haven, which is about a half hour up. And there's lighthouses, all along the coast.
Sure. What are a few of if you were to take some guests out, show people around, if you were going out to eat, what are a few of the food places or cafes, coffee shops? Do you have bakeries? Where are some of those places that you would take people?
Okay. So people always ask me, what's your favorite restaurant? And I always say the Itty Bitty Bar and Grill.
Oh.
And the Itty Bitty Bar and Grill, it's a 5-star dive bar, actually right in our neighborhood. So we can walk there, which is so lovely. But if you're from the street and you look at it, you would not think anything of it. You would probably not stop there.
Well, this is exactly why I like to ask locals.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so good. My favorite are the nachos. I love nachos.
Okay.
And another place that's closer down the beach, I live about, I would say 2 minutes from the state park. And so down by the state park, they put in a new upscale Mexican restaurant called Playa. And that is really good. The margaritas are on point.
So is that within walking distance?
That it would be a longer walk, but you could do it. And I am all about meals that are at a place that provides atmosphere and an experience. I don't want to just go sit down and eat my meal. I know that's why you go to a restaurant, but I am like a patio margarita drinker. So if I'm going to drink a margarita, I want it to be at Playa, looking over the lake, with a great view. I want the experience with the guy playing guitar, the whole thing. I love it. So that, for me, those would be my favorite spots.
Are you a coffee drinker? Do you do coffee shops?
We do have some really good coffee shops around here. I have gotten into, and I wasn't even going to talk about this, but we can talk about it. I've gotten into this product called mud water. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's like a mushroom based. It's like a coffee alternative, and it's like, I wish I could show you a picture of it, but it's like, envision a chai latte and a mocha had a baby. And
Okay.
it's this drink, and it's very good. And I love coffee, but I am pretty caffeine sensitive. So if I were to
Mm.
have a full caffeinated coffee, I would be bouncing off the walls and you would not know what to do with me. So this still has caffeine in it, but it has a lesser amount. And I really just think that's better for everybody involved.
So is it something that you can purchase at places, or is this something that you need to make at home? You order it from somewhere and you're making these at home.
I make it at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are
Yeah.
there's mushrooms involved? I'm crinkling my nose.
Yes. I know. And what's so funny is my husband makes so much fun of me because I will not eat mushrooms.
Hmm.
Like I won't eat a mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so this does not taste like a mushroom at all, but they say there's adaptogens and all these healthy components. I should have looked it up before we got on this call, but there's all these healthy components that go into these therapeutic mushrooms,
Hmm.
basically, that provide these health benefits. And so that's what I've been doing. But we
Okay.
do have lovely coffee shops downtown. Actually, there's one in my neighborhood that's so popular and really good. I had an iced coffee there once and stayed up till about 1 a.m. But they're great. It's called Kin Coffee, Kin.
Okay.
That's another one that's a little bit off the beaten path, but definitely worth going to if you're in the area.
Let's move into your boutique business that you own with the home rental. You and Kyle own Blue Palm Getaways, and
Yeah.
you have vacation rental homes with an S now, right? Which is super exciting. I'm excited to hear about that. But just a little backstory. I mean, this is how Jason and I met you. We went there to Gulf Shores, Alabama in February.
February.
Yep, in February. Well, he wanted for sure to stay in more, he didn't want to stay in a hotel, and certainly not some high rise monstrosity on the
Mhm.
beach, right? He really wanted this experience. So he started looking on Airbnb, and then he would show me things and I'd go, oh, but read this, a review. There would always be something that I would say, no, no. Anyway, long story short, eventually he finds your place, the Lani Kai on the Gulf of Mexico. And we make it work and we go, and we were one of your first guests, but it was an incredible experience. You were an amazing host, and I've only stayed in an Airbnb one other time prior to that, out in the Black Hills of South Dakota. That was my first experience, and that was a few years back. And it always makes me nervous because you don't know what you're getting into. You stay in a hotel, usually there's standards, but that's not they're not always met either. So we took a risk, and it was the best decision that we made. And we're just so happy that we met you and that we were able to stay there. Now, Kalani and I brought my daughter there in August for a trip quick before she started her real adult full-time job at Sanford as a surge tech. So anyway, I just wanted to share a little bit about how we met you, because we haven't known you just since the beginning of the year, but just feel very blessed that we did. So I just want you to share your story about why and how you became a vacation rental home owner. You invested, what was your motivation, things like that.
I love this question, and I have this like feeling in my soul, and you just like warmed me up that I was able to impact your life in such a wonderful way and provide you with such an exceptional experience, because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, that's what I want to do. So that was beautiful to hear. For me, my why is my kids. So we have an amazing Christian school system here in Holland, and we had initially sent our kids there for preschool, or we had sent Olivia there for preschool. My son wasn't in preschool yet. He is now.
Mhm.
And we said, well, we'll do this for preschool and then we will switch to the public school system. And me and my husband went to public school. We have no, hard feelings towards public school, but we got into this Christian school system and we just said, wow, this feels like home. This feels like it's giving our kids the foundation, the safety, everything that we wanted for them. We just felt so comfortable sending them there. And so we fell in love with that, but we needed to find a way to pay for it. So we've always been very entrepreneurial, and have had a love for real estate really since when we were in high school. We would drive around and look at big houses. That's what me and Kyle would do in high school. Yeah. So in 2016, I was pregnant with Olivia and we started in real estate and purchased our first long-term rental. It's actually right here in Holland. So it's a long-term rental.
Oh, okay.
Near downtown. And that honestly has been going great. It chugs along. And then 2020 hit and the economy and the market kind of exploded. Home prices went way up. So we were like, okay, how can we keep investing when these prices are so astronomical? And so we went to a low income area and we were like, well, a lot of people make money in low income housing. Maybe we could too. But it did not take us long to realize we didn't love it. So we had bought a duplex and a fourplex, and we worked with a property manager and we rehabbed the property and we made them nice, but we didn't love it. And we really wanted to create spaces that we felt so proud of, and low income housing, it didn't jive with our hearts. So we got out of that and enter short-term rentals. So we said, well, we could cater to families going on vacation. And this opportunity also gave us the ability to own property at the beach, which has always been a big dream of mine. And living in Michigan, as you know, winters are really tough. They're really dark.
Yep.
We miss the sun. And so having a place that I thought, oh, wow, I could escape here for a long weekend that was very, very appealing. And my husband is so awesome. He's never like, Alicia, your ideas are crazy. He's always like, okay, let's figure out how we can do that, because we are not wealthy people. So to buy a house at the beach, we had to figure out a way to have other people help us pay for our house at the beach.
Right.
And so when we were analyzing deals, we were really looking at that gross annual revenue and what can that pump out for us to put towards their tuition. Basically, every penny that comes out of that condo goes straight towards their tuition. So it makes me, and I tell people that, and I say, thank you so much for choosing the Blue Palm at Lani Kai. You have supported our family in such an impactful way. And we are so grateful because we know how many choices people have, especially in today's market. So we do not take that lightly. And that is why at the heart of everything we do, we want to love and treat people so well that they feel seen, that they feel like they got an exceptional value, an exceptional experience, and they feel really just well taken care of.
And as a guest twice already in one of your properties, I would say that you're definitely hitting the mark on that.
And I think families really resonate because there's a difference between an investor who is just going in and putting heads in beds and turn and churn and pump the guests in, pump the guests out, maximize revenue to the highest extent. And of course, I'm trying to maximize revenue, right? But it's not so that I can go buy a fancy big house or a big car. And of course, right, those things would be great, but truly, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, if all I ever got from this experience was to sleep well at night, knowing that my kids' tuition was covered, that's it. That's all I need.
And that you get a few days at the beach in the winter.
Yes. I know. Kyle always makes me use it when it's like the least desirable times to go.
Oh, I'm
but
sure.
I'm still okay with it.
If I remember right, you had thought about Florida, realized that wasn't going to be the answer. So I was just wondering, because Gulf Shores in Alabama is not a place. I mean, I don't want to talk about it either. I don't want to share it because it was
it's
a long time ago, sort of a secret place, and it's becoming more popular. And as hurricanes have come through, wiped out some homes, investors have come in, some tall, big buildings, hotels have been built right on the beach. So it's not quite as very small, quaint that it used to be, but it still is very small, quaint when you think about other places. I've been to Hawaii.
exactly.
Yeah.
But comparative to what else is in the surrounding area, it is still very like underdeveloped in comparison to Destin, to Pensacola, to Panama City Beach. So yeah, people are going to think I'm crazy. That I live in Michigan and bought a property 14 hours away, but also I put this property under contract before I had ever even been to Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Well,
So
I think you're brilliant. Not crazy.
Yay.
That's a great move.
Oh, good. Yeah. So we really had, like you said, looked at Florida for the longest time, but we were having really a hard time making any numbers work because it was right after Hurricane Ian. And so all the insurances were astronomical. And I still pay really high insurance in Alabama, but it's not to the level of what Florida is right now. And so I was trying to, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, you're always like, okay, how can I pivot? What's next? And I was talking to another investor who was doing really well at the beach. And I was like, girl, where are you investing? And she was like, Gulf Shores. I'm having a really great experience in Gulf Shores. And I was like, well, I've never heard of it, but I would love to check it out. So Kyle and I planned a trip in October of 2022. We planned a trip along the Emerald Coast. And so we initially started in Panama City Beach and we drove all the way to Gulf Shores, Alabama. And we kind of just stopped along the way. We thought, where would we bring our family? What would mesh with our values? And when we got to Gulf Shores, we were like, oh yeah, this is it. And this is what's really a God thing that happened is, so I had talked to that girl. She put me in touch with her realtor and he started kind of sending us properties, things that he thought might work. And one of the properties was Lani Kai. And we said, well, let's put in an offer. Like, let's do it. And that happened right before that trip.
Oh, right before the trip. Okay.
Yeah. And so when we were down there, it was actually during the 10-day inspection period. So we did get to walk the property before we actually closed on it. But it really just all somehow aligned with when the offer came in, when the property was available, when our trip was, when we saw it, and how we really just fell in love with Gulf Shores. And we just truly love the area because it's so family friendly. There's lots of parks, kids friendly restaurants. And again, it's just not as big and built up as some of the other places.
Yeah. And I mean, our perspective was different when we went it was a very different perspective than if we would have gone when our kids were younger, like you have. And I should have pointed out more how kid friendly it is. Because even places like the Hangout, I think we talked about the Hangout and how it was so full of energy and you'd want to just go and party, whatever. But it closes at like 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it's totally for kids as well. When they do the, okay, everybody that has a birthday today, get up on the table and dance, so there's like dads up there and the kids are
Oh,
going,
it's
oh my
so
gosh,
funny.
so embarrassing, dad. It's
Yes.
so fun. And there's all kinds of places that they have the bars, they have on the beach, but then they have these areas where the kids can be, you can have your eyes on them. They can't get
Yes.
into the beach because it's, blocked
Mhm.
off, gated off, but they're being able to play in the sand while you're having your margaritas. It is so kid friendly, like you said, in the parks and the zoo and the state park and the bike trails. And
Yes. I
um,
couldn't have said it better. And I feel like my mind was like blown when I
mhm.
went with my family in April because again, we went to the hangout and they have, all the big sandy area and then they also have those foam parties. So every hour on the
Yeah.
hour they would like shoot out foam and my kids would run through it and it was just so fun and we found Lulu's. That was
Mm.
another restaurant that we absolutely loved. And I'm sure you know this, but it's actually owned by Lucy Buffett, the late Jimmy Buffett's
I
sister.
didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So we love Lulu's because our kids have really significant and severe food allergies. And Lulu's has an entirely separate kitchen that they prepare food for people with allergies.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Never in my life have I ever seen that attention to detail.
Hmm.
But I have to imagine someone in their family has a significant food allergy
Right.
because I've never really felt safe taking my kids out to eat except for when I was at Lulu's.
Hmm.
And Lulu's, they had, what was it? It was the fountain for youth. So they had this like sandy area and it was this fountain with all this water coming down and they had dump trucks and sand toys and my kids were a mess, they were putting sand in the water and getting sand all over them but again it was a beautiful thing because they were safe, they were occupied,
Yeah.
and me and Kyle could actually sit down and eat a hot meal and I was like, why are there not places like this in Michigan?
Oh, sure.
you
Yeah.
know and Lulu's again was not the only place that had, like you said, the little area. We went to GT's on the bay, and that's in Orange Beach, and that's on Wolf Bay, I believe.
Okay.
Uh, that was great. They had like a safe fenced kid area with a big kid play pirate ship and I just felt like again, Gulf Shores has done a lot to ensure that everything's very family friendly. And so that resonated with us because
Hmm.
we are a family.
I read in the state or the city, there's the areas on the beach where they have wheelchair accessible or handicap
Yes.
accessible, which I thought was really neat. Even if you're in a wheelchair, you're able to go out to the Gulf of Mexico on the beach, just like everybody else. So I thought that was really neat. So again, we've talked about your Lani Kai condo in some other episodes, but we do love the location because it literally you walk across the street. And now, is the beach actually private?
That is the beach. There is like a certain amount of frontage in front of the condos on the beach side that is truly only for our HOA.
Oh, okay.
It's really sweet because it's a low density complex and there's not the big parking structures, there's not the slow elevators, there's not all of those things that come with those monstrosity
Hmm.
complexes.
So you talk about Hallmark movies. I mean, if you're talking about a summer Hallmark movie, that's what your Lani Kai property is like. The color of
Mhm.
it even is sort of this bright turquoise. There's two little swimming pools. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, you're just walking up your stairs on the outside, going into your property.
And that's so convenient. I don't think people understand the convenience of parking right underneath and that just you walk right up the stairs because again, you park underneath,
Yep.
it's on stilts. You walk up the stairs and you're at the door. And as again, a mom of young kids, I'm at the beach. My 3-year-old has to go potty.
Yep.
Well, luckily we can just hustle on back really quick. And
Mm-hmm.
me and Kyle did the math multiple times, like would set our little stopwatch. And it's really 2 minutes from the beach to the door.
Yep.
So again,
And
you need snacks, anything, you left something behind, sunglasses, whatever. It's really easy to go back.
and so people will say, okay, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, they are two different cities,
Yes.
but there's Fort Morgan. Is that where your new property is?
Yes. So we recently started co-hosting, which means we partner with owners of their properties who maybe are self-managing and not seeing the returns they like, or they don't want to spend as much time into it, or maybe someone who's with a property manager who doesn't love how their property is being taken care of. That's where I come in as a co-host. So I will, as a revenue share model of their income, I get a small percentage and will help manage it and host it for them.
Okay.
So this property, it's beautiful. It's been beautifully remodeled. It's serene. It's coastal. It's down on Fort Morgan Road, out in Fort Morgan. And if you're not familiar with Fort Morgan, it's very quiet. It's known to be more peaceful than West Beach, where I'm located in Gulf Shores. Fort Morgan is much quieter.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot less commercialized. It's a lot more natural. And people go out there for that reason.
Sure.
So theirs is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and it's right on the bay. So they have two beautiful balconies, one that faces the harbor, one that faces the bay. And you can actually, what makes this property so unique is that you can bring your boat. They have boat slips. And so boaters, fishermen, it really appeals to that audience.
Mm-hmm.
And they have pools, they have hot tubs. There's so much in Fort Morgan that people don't even realize because it's all a little bit tucked away. But there's beautiful nature trails. There's the historic Fort Morgan. There's restaurants like Tacky Jack's and Sassy Bass and
that's where
and
Jesse's. Yeah, I was gonna just say that's where Jesse's opened their newest, right?
Yes. Yes. And so and if you want to see the best sunsets in the area, drive out to Fort Morgan.
Mm-hmm. When Kalani and I were out there, she wanted to have some pictures of her at sunset. And so we drove out and did them out there by where the Mobile Bay Ferry comes in and out. Yep. We went on that beach right there and had the most beautiful pictures. What do you love about Gulf Shores?
I love the family-friendly atmosphere. This may just be my perception, but I feel Florida is it is a beautiful melting pot, but it is also, I think, so many people from the north that move south. Versus Alabama, to me, is true Southern hospitality. Like you feel like you're in the South when you're in Alabama. And I really loved that.
I agree with that. I have a friend, Tracy, and she's from the South. She's my one Southern friend. And I felt like I was around like 100 Tracys when I was down there because it was very Southern, the Southern hospitality. Were there any other, you mentioned a few of the restaurants and things, but were there any other places that you wanted to mention in Gulf Shores?
We talked about the wildlife trails, the Bon Secours natural area, historic Fort Morgan, Alabama Gulf Coast Zoo, the track. That's kind of fun. That's like go-karts and mini golf. The wharf has incredible shopping, dining, even concerts. They get a lot of big names.
Yeah, they do.
Wharf.
Yeah, they do. All summer
So,
long. It was, I mean, Eric Church
yes.
was there like 3 days in a row.
Yes. Like
Hmm.
Jason Aldean has been there. Kenny Chesney has been there.
Hmm.
Uh, Morgan Wallen, I think, was there.
So if we go back to hosting for a minute, if somebody is thinking about investing or having a vacation rental home, what were some of the challenges that you experienced or some of the surprises?
Oh my gosh, I could talk about this all day. Um, I just love talking about hosting, but challenges. So I would honestly say the biggest challenge was the distance and getting my teams in place, getting people that I could trust, my boots on the ground is what I call them,
Hmm.
my helpers
Yep.
that really, can pick up pieces when I cannot physically be there. So what initially happened is we purchased and closed in November of 22. In December, my husband flew down for a long weekend and he did a lot of the handyman work, like touch up paint, changed out locks, things like that. And then in January, my mom went down with me, and I am forever grateful for her help because I I just there was so much on my list and I never would have accomplished it without my mom. So we flew down and we tackled things like furnishings, window treatments, outfitting the kitchen, getting all the tech set up and running, guest experience things like games, extra blankets. And we would constantly be asking ourselves, if we were staying here, if
Mm-hmm.
we were paying X amount of money to spend the night here, what would we want as
Mm-hmm.
guests? And so we kind of tailored all of our purchasing decisions in that way, as if we were on vacation with our family and what we would want to see. We really just thought through, well, what if it's rainy, or what if it's cold, what if it's hot, what can we provide for people? We even have these charging towers for guests so they can plug in their phones, their watches, things like that. We have a noise machine because my kids like to sleep with a noise machine. So I leave that there for guests to use. And this goes into maybe one of your other questions, but the market now has truly exploded with short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, people coming in and so it's important to remain competitive and to think through, what can I offer? What can make me stand apart? And of course, for us, we really focus on the guest experience and the customer service. And, if a guest messages me and they have a question or they're having trouble, I will pick up the phone and I will call them
Yeah.
and I will say, we can fix this for you. And so we really focus on our customer service. We do the beach wagon and the beach chairs. That I think is a really big asset.
It is, because Jason and I coming out in there in February, we didn't bring beach chairs
Mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be able to come onto a vacation at a beach and have those things at your disposal that you provide and take
Mm-hmm.
care of, that was priceless too, to just pack up that little wagon and go over to the beach with your beach chairs. Hmm.
Yes.
Do you have any like funny or nightmare stories yet from your first year in business?
Oh, yes.
One that
Well,
you want to
we could
share?
start. Yeah, I mean, let's start with so you were my third guest when you and Jason stayed in February. You guys were my third guest.
Mhm.
And I remember you had messaged me and you said, we can't find the towels. And so immediately I was like, oh, I bet, those might have walked
Oh, the
off
beach
with,
towels. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, I bet those walked off. So I text who I thought was my runner down in Gulf Shores, again, like my boots on the ground, my team. And I was like, hey, her name's also Stacy. And I was like, hey, Stacy, I think my beach towels walked off. Can you run and grab my guests and drop them off at the door? And then you texted me back and you were like, okay, this is hilarious. Like, I am so forever grateful how kind you were about that experience, because that was my first oopsie, my first major oopsie as a host, that I texted my guest asking her to buy her own towels.
Well, you know what? If it's not a major oopsie, right? First of all, if somebody can't just be understanding about that, then you probably don't want them staying. But yeah, no, we
Hmm.
were sitting on the beach, but we had noticed that there weren't beach towels and we thought that there were. And so Jason had messaged you. So we're sitting next to each other on the beach and Jason messages you to say we couldn't find the beach towels. And then I'm like, that's funny because now I just got a text from Alicia saying, can you go get beach towels? And we laughed. It was so funny. And so I said, we can run and get those, right? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. We're going to do stuff, whatever. And so we didn't think anything of it. And then when I realized that you actually didn't mean to ask me, I'm like, oh, well, I mean, it's not a big deal. So we can totally do that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I was just like mortified. I was
Uh,
like, this lady probably doesn't think I have my act together at all. And
no,
so that
it's just like how I am. I would do something like that. So it was
I was
refreshing.
just, yes, I was forever grateful for your kindness.
Yeah.
Let's see. What other stories can I tell you? Um, I had a learning opportunity in
Hmm.
March. I had an 18-year-old book my property and he threw a massive underage party.
Oh
And
my.
I know, and my HOA had to call me, and there was like
Oh,
I know, and I was like, oh no. So that was a learning opportunity. And
yeah.
so now I require all my guests to be over the age of 25. They have to send me a picture of their photo ID now so I can make sure that they are who they say they are. And I have my guests sign a rental agreement just to cover my bases and a
Yeah.
security deposit. With anything, hosting has taught me to go with the flow because I'm very type A. I like
Mm.
things to go a certain way, but I can't control any of that. I
No.
can't control there's so many moving parts to this. And I have learned a lot and truly just know you got to roll with the crazy because it's going to
Yeah.
happen.
And now you're a super host on Airbnb. And then if you're on is it VRBO Verbo Premier
Yeah.
Host it's called. So I
Mhm.
mean you're definitely doing something right and you've gotten that recognition. You have to maintain that.
Yeah, thank you for that. No, it was a big goal for us this year to hit Superhost and Premier Host. It really means a lot because we have put in so much hard work, so much time, so many hours and effort to make sure every stay is exceptional. So to have that recognition really felt rewarding. And to maintain, so for to be a super host, you have to be hosting for at least 3 months. You have to have over 10 stays or 100 nights, I believe. You can never cancel a booking on a guest, which I think would just be
Mhm.
terrible if someone was planning their vacation and you're like, actually, no, you can't come.
Right.
And you have to have exceptional reviews. You cannot have, I believe, below a 4 it's a 4.8 or a 4.9. So what a lot of
Wow.
people don't, I know what a lot of
Yeah.
people don't understand about the world of Airbnb and Verbo is that anything less than 5 stars is actually very detrimental to the reputation and rating of a host or a property. So it's not necessarily how the hospitality companies do it for hotels. Like
Hmm.
you would think a 4-star hotel is very good,
Hmm.
but a 4-star Airbnb is not necessarily very good.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So for anyone listening to this who is looking for Airbnbs to stay at, you want, and again, to have perfect 5 stars across the board from every single person, is nearly impossible.
Sure.
But if you can have, anything, I would say 4.8, 4.85, 4.9, that's where you don't want to book a place probably that has lower reviews than that. And so Airbnb and Vrbo are actually are going to start pushing out some education for guests so that they understand how that rating system goes. Because for us as hosts, we have to do a lot of education. If basically had an exceptional experience and you enjoyed your stay and you feel like you got everything that you quote unquote ordered when you booked, we would love a 5-star review because truly anything less, it's not a good day for a host.
Like you said, if you feel like you got everything that you expected, a 5 star is okay to give.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And again, with letting go the control and knowing, my dad would always say is like, you're not a golden egg. Not everyone's going to love you. You're not going to always be able to make everyone happy. So it's understanding that and just knowing in my heart that I have truly done everything that I could, if there was a problem, to fix it or to ensure that that guest really had the best time that they possibly could at my property.
What do you love most about being a vacation home rental host?
I love being a part of people's memories. I love being a part of people's stories. And I've been a part of people's stories in the worst times and in the best times. I've had someone who booked my place last minute because his dad died and he had to be closer to family. And so we sent him flowers. And it's just these ways that I can truly impact people from across the country. I can make someone smile all the way from Michigan when they, maybe not be in the best situation. And most of the time people going to the beach are on vacation. And so additionally, being part of all those positive memories where people said, we made lifetime memories here that really are going to stick with us and our kids, and to be part of that and to help that family have such a great experience is really, it feels really empowering and really impactful.
So where can people find Blue Palm Getaways?
So a little tidbit that some people might not know is that when you book through Airbnb and Vrbo, you're paying an excessive amount of what I feel is excessive.
I agree.
of service fees.
Yep.
So you guys are charged, it depends on the location of the property, but it can be anywhere up to 15% of the booking goes to Airbnb as a service fee for using their platform. So the best way to book through us is going directly through our website, because you're not going to pay those fees.
Okay.
And that's www.bluepalmgetaways.com. And I actually want to offer all your listeners a discount. So for 10% off the booking, you can use code Stacy10.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yes. And because I want to be able to provide families and listeners and couples just these amazing experiences. And if, a little discount and saving those service fees can do that for somebody, that's what I want to be able to provide.
That is incredibly generous. Thank you. And then you're also on social media.
Yes. Instagram is Blue Palm Getaway, and Facebook is, you can just search Blue Palm Getaways and we should pop right up. But yes, we post a lot of fun things about our properties, things you can do in the area, places to eat, beautiful views. I'm such a beach girl. I am in there and I will never get sick of a beautiful sunrise. So you're going to see some sunrises on my social media.
And I do like how on your social media, you're sharing your things, but you're also sharing within the Orange Beach and Gulf Shores community.
Yes. And I think for me anyway, as a traveler, I get so overwhelmed by the thought of going somewhere that I've never been and trying to figure out where I should go. And I think that's the perfectionist in me, that I want to, see the best this, do the best that, and all of these things. And so my hope is that I can strengthen community and I can share other local businesses and help them grow, but also to share with viewers and visitors, these are some of our favorite places. And so we hope that you too can enjoy this and use this when you're planning your trip. And I also linked to your list because I thought your podcast and your list of all the restaurants in the area and what to do, I thought that was brilliant. So that's also on our website too.
Do you have advice for if somebody was thinking about becoming a investor? And
oh, I love this. I love this question. Okay. I would highly recommend the book Short-Term Rentals, Long-Term Wealth by Avery Carl. It's very short. It's probably 100 pages, maybe. Short-Term Rentals, Long-Term Wealth. And that book, it doesn't tell you everything you need to know, obviously, but it gives you such a good start to finish outline of what investing in this industry is like. It's it's really good. And then if you like that, I would recommend getting plugged into a mentor. So I work really closely with Stacy St. John. She does the STR Success Accelerator program. And she has so much education and ways to get plugged in. And she's also a beach investor. She's investing up in Myrtle Beach, but she has really been such an amazing resource for me. So I would say get plugged in, start talking to people. And of course, please reach out to me. I would love to answer and help anyone because I truly believe God put me on this earth to help others. And so if I can share some of my experiences, share some of my mistakes, I would love to help someone else. So definitely feel free to reach out to me.
Well, let's switch a little bit here and talk the last few minutes about food. So one thing you're going to talk about is allergen-free chocolate chip cookies.
So my son is allergic to cow's milk, so all dairy and sunflower oil. And my daughter is allergic to peanuts, pistachios, cashews, and eggs. So we have worked hard to find ways for them to feel included and, quote unquote, normal. And they can eat foods that someone without allergies can eat, like chocolate chip cookies. So what's really, again, it's a wonderful thing and a sad thing is that 1 in 13 kids has a food allergy. And that means that our world has provided a lot of substitutes and alternatives that we can use, for cooking and baking that we can plug into a regular recipe and still have a delicious outcome that's safe for them to eat. So Nestle and Toll House, they have a allergen, it's called like Simply Nestle, I believe. And it's 3 ingredients. It's like cocoa, sugar, and oil, maybe, in their chocolate chips. And they're absolutely delicious. And we love them at my house and make them too often. And so because my kids, they'll just scoop the cookie dough because, again, there's no eggs in it. So they can just eat it. But that has been a recipe that we really like. And I was joking with my husband last night and I was like, I cannot believe that I'm going to be talking to like a major foodie and tell her to use the cookie recipe on the side of a bag. But it really is a good recipe.
No, I'm glad that you did because you don't even know how many recipes that I have that start with or include a box cake mix. So yeah, I'll share that recipe that you gave to me from, like you said, it's a Nestle. It's on verybestbaking.com.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, okay, so I'm super excited about this next one because it sounds like I've already done some research now and I'm like, ooh, I think I want to make these myself. But
I think when I was messaging you about these last night, I was like, Stacey would be all over these, I think.
yeah,
Like she would love to like doctor these up and stuff them full of delicious things. So a little background. And again, this is a podcast. There's no video, but if you saw me, I'm fair skin. I have blue eyes. I have blonde hair, but I am 50% Venezuelan. My dad immigrated here with a suitcase and a guitar when he was about 18 to 20 years old and actually moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, of all the places. And so he brought with him, obviously, recipes and memories from his childhood, and he has passed those on for us. And one thing that I love, it's called an arepa. And what it is basically this corn. It's made with maize, corn flour, and water, salt, sugar, pretty like standard basic ingredients, nothing fancy. And you make these little biscuits or flatbreads basically, and you bake them. And you can really eat them any type of way. Like even in Miami, they have arepa food trucks.
Oh.
So you could So you could get it stuffed with chicken or pulled pork, or you could even go sweet with it, and you could do like butter and honey and cheese, and there's so many things that you can do with an arepa. Um, but that was a major staple of like my childhood is an arepa. And when I went, I remember when I was probably like 10 or 12, and I realized the rest of the world was not eating those on a regular basis, or the rest of my world, I
Right.
should
Yeah.
say, was not eating that on a regular basis. My mind was blown. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, so yes, they're very good. They're very simple to make, but they're great.
Would you say you said kind of like a biscuit? Is it kind of that size? And then would it be
Yes.
kind of the thing where you slice it in half and can do
Mhm.
like a breakfast sandwich type thing out of it? Is
Yeah.
it like that?
Yes. Yes. Like a
Okay.
breakfast sandwich would be a great comparison, because you could put sausage and egg and bacon and whatever sauce you want on there, and it would be really good. It's
Of
got
course.
a crunchy exterior with a soft
Oh my
interior.
gosh. Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
you're gonna have to give the recipe to me if you will, so that I can
Yes.
make
Oh my
those.
gosh, of course. I will.
Is this something that you can make and then freeze them so that you can have like a
You
bag of
know,
them in the freezer? You guys have never had to do that because you just eat them all.
oh my gosh, I know. I know. So what we have done is my dad would always like make like a big thing of the mixture of the dough,
Hmm.
and then he would cover it in um like saran wrap, and then he would take out little pieces to make our breakfast each morning. So he wouldn't necessarily cook all of it at once, but he would leave that dough in the fridge for the week, and then would just pull out parts to make smaller portions if you didn't want to make a whole batch.
Okay. Well, that's a good idea too, because you can make it on the weekend and then have some on the weekend and then carry that into the week when you're trying to get some breakfast food on the table quick. Or obviously not just breakfast. This is something that can be for lunch, for dinner, so you can
Yeah.
make anything and probably
Hmm.
Americanize it up, right? Take a South American treat and smother it with like instead of biscuits and gravy, you do the sausage gravy on there. I
Oh,
mean, I'll
yeah.
totally ruin it.
No, you would not ruin it. You would enhance it. That sounds like a great idea.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. So I had not heard of it, and so I looked up, and it looks like there's even in Minneapolis three or four restaurants at least. I mean, there's probably more than that, but are arepa restaurants, or they have that word in the name of the restaurant. But so is your dad still around?
Him and my mom have been married for, I don't know, since 1987, whatever map that pencils out to be. But they still live in Kalamazoo.
Okay, they are. Okay.
And so he's lived now more of his life in Michigan, in
Mm-hmm.
America,
Mm-hmm.
than in Venezuela, but his whole childhood was there. And then
Right.
his parents sent him here for an education. He met my mom. And then that's how that story went.
Yeah, so he probably has some really great stories to tell too, and food that he still makes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I was saying in the beginning about how it just reminded me of this melting pot of cultures. And even though what I know is a certain thing, which is like the lefse and the rosettes and krum kaka and tater tot hot dish, and there are all these other wonderful foods that are part of our Midwest culture. It just might not be within our family. So to learn these things
Yeah.
is really fun.
Yes, I feel like I have spoken about many things that your maybe other guests have not spoken
I
about
know we're
today.
talking like mud water and
Oh, I know.
great. We'll kind of wrap it up here and in the Midwest. So you love the beach, but where's one of the most fun places in the Midwest that you've gone to?
Ooh, Mackinac Island. I love Mackinac Island because it's not that far. It's at the top of the Mitten, and it's very fun. Have you ever been there?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, you have to go. It's fun. There's no cars. No cars are allowed on the island. So everything is by horse and buggy. And everything is like a cute B&B. And they have that really famous hotel called the
Okay.
Grand Hotel. And You take a ferry, and it's an island. So you take a ferry from the mainland of Michigan and you go to this island, and it's about, I don't want to get this wrong, I think it's about 8 miles. And so everything is bike or horse. And there's all these cute B&Bs and hiking trails, and the water up there is so beautiful, like the Great Lakes.
Sure.
So I would highly recommend going there. And if you can, stay at least one night in the Grand. It's really fun. We've also stayed at Mission Point, which is great. I really highly recommend Mission Point. They have this thing called the Butterfly House. There's so much to do up there. And they have every year like a big Halloween party. So that weekend is really fun to go because everyone's in costumes.
And do you have, other than you have the book by Avery Carl that you would recommend, but do you have any other book recommendations that you want to share?
Ooh, I would say, let's see. I wrote down a cookbook. I'm a big Joanna Gaines fan. Like my cup right here, it says like I dream of shiplap.
Oh, fun. That's cute.
Yeah, so I love her cooking show, and I have her cookbooks. And I'm really a big lover of like podcasts. So I like the Ed Milet show right now. That's one of my favorites for like mindset and personal growth.
Have you been to Texas to any of Joanna Gaines' places?
Oh, you better believe I went
there.
You
did.
I went to Waco. It was smaller when I went. Anyway, it was fun. They didn't have all of the silos built out. They did have their bakery. They had the bakery, which was really cute. They had their big store. Now they have a ton of shops. They have a lot more down there. And when we went down there, actually, we stayed in the Shotgun House. So if you're a fan of their show, they did this little house. It was a little shotgun house, and they redid the whole house. And it was, when we stayed in it, it looked identical to how it did in the show. It was really cool.
Okay. How about favorite books from your kids? Do they have a couple of favorite books?
Actually, this morning we were reading a Paw Patrol book.
Oh.
And a Halloween monster truck book. And The Biggest Kiss.
The Biggest Kiss. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you want to add?
I feel like we covered so much in this time together. This was so fun.
We spent a lot of time here, and I know your time is very precious. So I appreciate that you did that.
No, this was fun. I was so excited when you reached out to do this, because it's such different. It's kind of melding all these worlds of motherhood and homemaking, and somehow I've fallen into this stay-at-home working mom bubble, and so I thought this was a lot of fun. You have this tenacious pursuit to find a way to make these things happen for your family, and to provide the different things for your family and these memories for other families, and for you and Kyle and the kids. I just think it's precious. So that's awesome. Thanks so much. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Well, I don't know about you, but I want to go pack my bag for vacation. Maybe we'll wait till the snow flies, I guess, and then we'll really enjoy the beach. Thank you again, Alicia, for the discount code to your Gulf Shore properties. Remember, that's Stacy10, STACI 10. So if you head on over to bluepalmgetaways.com, you can take a look at her places, her condos, and use that discount code. And before I forget, we talked about the beach towels at the condo, shared that little story, and I just want to be sure to mention that it's not something that's offered anymore. It's pretty common not to have that service, but since we did talk about beach towels, I want to make sure people know that that's something that's changed since we first stayed there. I've also posted the recipes for arepas and allergen-free chocolate chip cookies on randomsweets.com, and there's also photos of Alicia and her family, and the links to the books and the podcast and other places that we mentioned in this episode. And some of those links are in the show notes or the show description in your podcast app as well. Well, thank you for listening to Funeral Potatoes and Wool Mittens today, and thank you to those of you who have shared it with a friend or on social media.
I told my friend Deborah Wolforth today that the highest compliments you can give are sharing the show with a friend and encouraging people to be a guest on the show. And your reviews and those ratings that you give, they really help boost my podcast visibility, which then in turn helps increase the exposure and how they're discovered in podcast apps. So I appreciate that as well. Stay tuned for next week's episode with Stacy Sudkamp from Figtails and upcoming episodes with Kristen and Anna Raykamp and Nordic Waffles and Norway's waffle queen herself, Stina Aslan. So to be sure to listen, don't miss a thing, be sure to subscribe. I'm your host, Stacy Mergenthal. Sweet wishes!